Okay, now the next step is move this little triangular brace. And that looks like about a 13 or ½ inch. Nope, that's got to be a 12. Yep, by my clutch. Some people have air tools, and this of course goes much faster with the little 3/8 drive air ratchet. But if you don't have all those, you can still get the job done. Just takes a little bit longer is all. Well, silly me, I forgot there's a nut on the back side of that. That's why it's not loosening. And we could probably leave that on. This is a 14 on this side. But getting it out of the way just makes things so much easier later on. Okay, and I'll just slip the washer and nut back on that. And I won't have to look around for it when I go to put it back on. Okay. Now, let's see. We can start loosening bolts. I think I'll take the tensioner off next. And I already loosened the lock nut for that. So, just a matter of unthreading it, and this of course applies to the early bite. So the newer ones have a different style of tensioner. You'll just need to look up in the book how those things work. This one I guess requires tensioning every now and then, but it's pretty easy to work with. Okay, when you pull things out, keep the parts all together. That'll make it a little simpler later on to put it back in. And as far as I can see, this little thing just pushes on the back chain guide, and the spring loading applies a certain amount of tension depending on how much you adjust this, and the specifications are in the book. Okay, just keep that together and put it away. Now we can loosen these two. Let's see, where's my... It's too big. You always want to position yourself so that if you slip, you're not going to bust your knuckles, and I don't think this is going to be heavy duty enough to do that. So I'm going to get a regular Allen wrench. See, I think it's a 6mm. Yep, it's a 6mm. And those are kind of tight, so I'll use a little cheater here. I just want to break them loose. I can get it to go in there. Make sure it's well seated. Okay. Now I can twist those out. Might be a little easier with the Allen wrench. I don't know. You ever noticed when you have an audience, things don't go quite as well as otherwise? Oh well. Maybe this will build some confidence. If people think a klutz like me can do it, then anybody should be able to do it. You want to be careful you don't get any dirt inside the engine. I did clean mine, but you can see there's some places I didn't get very well. If it's attached to the engine, meaning it's not loose, then you should be okay. If it's loose, you should blow it off before you start pulling covers off. Okay, these two need to come loose, but they're a lot easier to get to after the head is off, so I think the next thing we'll do is go ahead and pull the head. And before we can do that, we have to take the cam sprocket off. And in the tutorial it talks about you can either try to maintain the timing by putting a bungee on the cam sprocket to hold the chain on the upper and lower sprockets, and that way nothing will change and hopefully it'll slip right back on. That's, you know, advisable when you have a helper. I don't have a helper today, so I'm just gonna put a piece of wire on the chain so it can't get lost down in the case, and then I'll just retime it when I go back together. So let me find my wire. Alright, I just have some stainless steel wire, commonly available at the hardware store. And you want to have plenty hanging out, so if the cam chain gets down inside the engine, there will still be this wire hanging out, and you can get a hold of it and pull the chain back up. Okay, I'm just gonna slip this through the chain wherever convenient. Come on. And twist it around itself so it can't come loose. Be careful you don't poke yourself on the end of that like that, because it's kind of sharp. Okay, now I can go ahead and pull this bolt out and pull the sprocket out. Are we recording? Yep. Okay. Get the chain off of it and pull it out of there. And then take the other end. I've got about 2.5 to 3 feet. That's probably way more than needed, but I'm just gonna tie that off to something so it can't get away easily. Obviously I'll have to take the end up through when I pull the head off, but that's okay. Okay, next, loosen the bolts to the head. And they're also 12. And these bolts you want to loosen just a little bit at a time to relieve the pressure on the head so nothing gets warped. So I'll just start right here. And I'm just going to loosen about 1/8 of a turn. Then I'm going to go to the extreme opposite, about 1/8 of a turn, jump to the forward one, and then the last one. And then another 1/8 of a turn. Keep doing that crisscross pattern to relieve the pressure evenly. 1/8 of a turn at a time. Okay, and they're all now loose. So I can just go ahead and run them out after I throw my socket on the floor. Okay, I just have a long extension on my socket, so I can easily twist those out a little quicker. And each one has a washer under the head. Take care you don't lose those. Okay, they're all loose. Now I can pull them out. Oops. There's one. There's two. 3 and 4. Okay, this next part's a little tricky, not too bad. Just pick up on the head and finagle it around. The difficult part is the timing chain guides come up inside there, so maybe it's easier to pull it off this side. Tip it away. I forget how I did it last time. Okay, yeah. Now, obviously I'll have to undo that wire. Pull it up through the head and then re-secure it so the chain can't get down and get away from us. Okay, there's the head out of the way. This spark plug boot up out of the way also. And the next step will be, I'm just going to move these, the head gasket and this little grommet out of the way so they don't fall inside the engine. Well, I guess it'd be hard for the gasket to fall in the engine, but we'll get it out of the way anyway.